Once upon a time, in the far reaches of the Arctic, lived a polar bear named Pippin. He was big and strong, with thick white fur that glistened in the snowy landscape. Pippin was friendly and loved having fun, but the long, cold winters often left him feeling a bit lonely. He longed for adventure, for something exciting to break the monotony of the endless snow. One evening, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a soft pink glow across the ice, Pippin received an unexpected letter. The letter was carried by the swiftest bird in the Arctic skies, a snow owl named Aurora. The envelope was brightly colored and covered with glittering stars, quite out of place in the stark, white world. Pippin carefully opened the letter and read, "You are cordially invited to the grand costume party of the tropics, hosted by none other than the fabulous Flamingo, Felicity. A night of fun, music, and dance under the warm glow of the tropical moon awaits. Please come in your best costume. Signed, Felicity the Flamingo." Pippin's heart raced with excitement. A costume party in the tropics. He had never been to the warm lands before, and the thought of sunshine, sand, and colorful costumes made his imagination soar. But then he frowned. What costume could a big polar bear possibly wear? He scratched his head and thought for a while. Maybe he could dress up as a snowman, but that felt too ordinary. A penguin? No, that wouldn't work either. Then an idea popped into his mind and he smiled wide. "I'll go as a tropical creature," he exclaimed to no one in particular. "That'll be unexpected." The next day, Pippin set off on his journey south, carrying with him the materials he'd need for his costume. It was a long trip, but the thought of the party kept him going. He crossed icy plains, swam through chilly waters, and flew on a cloud of excitement as he finally reached the tropical paradise. The island was unlike anything he had ever seen. The air was warm and smelled of sweet flowers. Palm trees swayed in the breeze, and colorful birds darted between the trees. Music filled the air, and the sound of laughter echoed from every direction. At the entrance to the party stood Felicity, the flamingo. She was radiant, her pink feathers shimmering in the moonlight. She wore a crown of hibiscus flowers and gold beads that jingled with every graceful step she took. When she saw Pippin, her long neck stretched up in surprise. "Pippin, you made it," she squawked joyfully, flapping her wings. "And what a fantastic costume!" Pippin blushed under his furry mask. He had crafted a makeshift outfit out of colorful fabric and palm leaves. He had attached a pair of cardboard wings to his back and even tied a bright flower garland around his neck. He looked as tropical as a polar bear possibly could. "Do you like it?" Pippin asked shyly. "It's perfect. You look like a tropical bird," Felicity said with a wink. "Come, the party's about to begin." Inside the party, the scene was dazzling. Creatures from all over the world had come, each dressed in their most creative costumes. There were parrots dressed as pirates, turtles in top hats, and even an elephant wearing butterfly wings. The music was lively, and everyone was dancing and laughing. Pippin felt a little out of place at first, being from such a cold, distant land, but everyone welcomed him warmly. He danced to the tropical tunes and tried delicious exotic fruits he had never seen before. Felicity introduced him to her friends, and they were all fascinated by his snowy homeland. As the night went on, Pippin found himself in the center of a costume contest. Felicity stood proudly next to him as she announced the winner. The prize for the most creative costume goes to Pippin the polar bear for coming as a tropical bird from the Arctic. The crowd cheered, and Pippin's heart swelled with happiness. He had never imagined that his simple costume would win, but it wasn't just the outfit that mattered. It was the adventure, the friends he made, and the fun he had along the way. After the contest, Pippin and Felicity found a quiet spot by the shore where the moonlight danced on the gentle waves. They sat together, watching the stars twinkle above. "I'm so glad you came," Felicity said, her voice soft and content. "It wouldn't have been the same without you." "I'm glad I came too," Pippin replied. "I'll never forget this night." And as the two unlikely friends sat side by side, a polar bear from the cold north and a flamingo from the sunny tropics, they realized that no matter where they came from or how different they seemed, they could always find joy in each other's company. The party continued long into the night, but for Pippin and Felicity, the best part was knowing that, costume or not, true friendship was the greatest adventure of all. And so, under the tropical stars, they drifted off to sleep, dreaming of future adventures together. The tropical moon had long set, and a soft, golden light began spreading across the horizon as morning arrived on the island. Gentle waves lapped at the shore, their rhythmic splashing a soothing sound that welcomed the new day. Tiny crabs scurried across the sand, leaving delicate trails behind them, and the scent of hibiscus flowers floated lazily through the air. Pippin the polar bear lay curled up under a broad palm leaf, his big paws tucked under his chin. He had danced the night away with Felicity and the other animals, but now the excitement of the party felt like a distant memory. The warmth of the tropical sun just beginning to rise wrapped around him like a cozy blanket. Felicity, the flamingo, stood nearby, her head tucked beneath one wing as she slept on one leg. Flamingos were always graceful, even in their sleep. A gentle breeze ruffled her pink feathers, and she gave a soft murmur, shifting slightly without waking. For a long while, the two friends rested peacefully. The beach was quiet, with only the occasional call of a seagull and the soft rustling of palm trees. Eventually, Pippin stirred, blinking sleepily as he stretched his legs. What time is it?" he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. Felicity lifted her head, still looking drowsy. She tilted it to one side, then gave a slow, contented yawn. "Oh, good morning, Pippin. I think it's morning, maybe." The two friends exchanged a lazy smile, neither of them in any rush to move. Pippin rolled onto his back, gazing up at the palm leaves above him as they swayed gently in the breeze. The rustling sound was soft and steady, almost like the sound of snow falling back in the Arctic. "This place is so quiet," Pippin murmured. "It feels like the whole world is taking a nap." Felicity chuckled softly, fluffing up her feathers. "That's the best part about mornings here. Everything moves a little slower after a good party." She gave her wings a slow stretch, careful not to disturb the sand. For a while, neither of them spoke. They simply listened to the gentle sounds around them, the ocean's whisper, the swaying trees, and the occasional chirp of a bird waking up from a long night. "Did you have a good time last night?" Felicity asked after a while, her voice as light as the breeze. Pippin gave a soft hum of agreement. "It was perfect. I've never been to a party like that before." He paused, closing his eyes for a moment. "But I think this part might be my favorite. Just lying here, listening to the waves." Felicity smiled. "I knew you'd like it here. The tropics are full of surprises, but they also know how to rest." Pippin rolled onto his side, propping his head on one paw as he looked out at the ocean. The sun was slowly rising higher now, making the water sparkle like 1,000 tiny diamonds. A lone sea turtle bobbed lazily near the shore, drifting with the gentle waves. "You know," Pippin said thoughtfully, "I thought I'd miss the snow, but this isn't so bad." Felicity gave a soft laugh. "It's not snow, but the sand here is just as soft, and there are plenty of places to take long naps in the shade." She gestured to the grove of palm trees behind them, their leaves whispering in the breeze. Pippin gave a slow nod, as if considering this very seriously. "Napping under a palm tree, I could get used to that." The two friends fell into another comfortable silence. The sun climbed a little higher, casting long shadows across the beach. A few parrots fluttered by, squawking softly, but the morning remained peaceful and calm. After a while, Felicity stretched her wings again, slowly this time. "Are you hungry, Pippin? There's a little place by the lagoon that serves the sweetest mangoes you'll ever taste." Pippin's stomach gave a quiet rumble, though he hardly noticed. Everything about this morning felt slow and dreamy. "Mangoes sound nice," he said with a sleepy smile. "But not just yet. I think I'd like to lie here a little longer." Felicity gave a gentle nod, her feathers ruffling slightly in the breeze. "That's a good idea. We've got all the time in the world." So they stayed there, side by side on the soft sand, watching the waves roll in and out. Time seemed to drift with the tide, unhurried and peaceful. And as the sun climbed higher, warming the sand beneath them, Pippin closed his eyes once more, feeling perfectly content in the quiet company of his friend. The breeze whispered through the palm trees, the waves hummed their gentle song, and the morning stretched on, soft and still, like the very best kind of dream. And with the softest of sighs, Pippin drifted off into another peaceful nap, the sound of the sea a lullaby that carried him gently into sleep. The sun had climbed a little higher in the sky, though it was still soft and golden, filtering through the palm leaves. Pippin stirred, slowly opening one eye. He was in no hurry to get up, and the warm sand beneath him felt too perfect to leave just yet. Nearby, Felicity gave a little hum as she preened her feathers, smoothing them gently, one by one. She glanced over at her friend with a soft smile. Still napping, Pippin? The polar bear gave a long, slow stretch, his front paws reaching as far as they could go. I was, but waking up like this doesn't feel much different from sleeping. Felicity gave a lazy giggle. That's the beauty of it. Tropical mornings feel like a dream, even when you're awake. She tucked her wings neatly at her sides, balancing perfectly on one leg again. Pippin rolled onto his back, gazing up at the sky. The clouds drifted slowly, like soft cotton balls floating on a river of blue. The sky here moves so slow, Pippin murmured. It's like everything is taking its time. Felicity tilted her head, watching a cloud that looked suspiciously like a fish drift past. That's island life, she said softly. No rushing, just going with the flow, like the waves. The sound of the waves brushing against the shore was like a lullaby, steady and gentle. Seagulls swooped low over the water, their calls distant and faint. Pippin gave a small sigh, his fluffy body rising and falling with the soft rhythm of his breath. You know what I'm thinking, Felicity? What's that? Felicity asked, shifting just slightly to stay in the shade of the palm. I'm thinking. Pippin began slowly, his words coming out as lazy as the clouds above them, that we could float down a river today. Felicity's eyes lit up, but only a little, just enough to sparkle in the soft morning light. There's a lagoon that feeds into a river, she said, her voice soft and dreamy. It's not far from here, and the water's so calm you could drift along for hours. Pippin gave the smallest, most contented grunt. That sounds perfect. Without rushing, the two friends slowly gathered themselves. Felicity stretched her wings wide, giving them a few slow flaps to shake off the last of her sleepiness. Pippin stood, dusting off a bit of sand from his fur, though some clung to him stubbornly, as if the beach didn't want him to leave just yet. Together, they wandered over to the edge of the lagoon. The water was clear and still, like a mirror reflecting the sky. A few lily pads floated lazily on the surface, and a dragonfly buzzed by, its wings shimmering in the sunlight. Felicity found an old, wide leaf big enough for Pippin to lie on. This should do the trick, she said with a soft smile. Hop on, and I'll steer us with my beak. Pippin gave a slow, sleepy laugh. You think of everything, Felicity. He climbed onto the leaf, settling into it as if it were the softest, most comfortable bed in the world. The leaf dipped slightly under his weight, but held steady, bobbing gently on the surface of the lagoon. With a graceful push of her beak, Felicity sent the leaf gliding into the water. The lagoon was so calm that they barely made a ripple as they drifted away from the shore. Pippin lay flat on his back, gazing up at the sky. The sun had moved a little higher, casting a warm, golden glow over everything. He gave a long, slow sigh, the kind of sigh that only comes when everything feels just right. Felicity floated beside him, paddling gently with one foot to keep them moving in the softest, laziest way possible. This river leads through the jungle, she whispered. It's so quiet you can hear every little sound, birds, frogs, even the fish making bubbles. Pippin listened, and sure enough, he could hear the faintest sounds. The distant croak of a tree frog, the plop of a fish jumping, and the soft rustle of leaves as the breeze passed through the jungle canopy. This is nice, Pippin murmured, his voice barely louder than a whisper. Really nice. The river wound gently through the jungle, shaded by tall trees with wide, leafy branches. Sunbeams peeked through the gaps, painting the water with spots of light. Every now and then, a tiny fish would dart beneath their floating leaf, causing the water to ripple just a little. Neither Pippin nor Felicity felt the need to talk much. The sounds of the jungle and the river did all the talking for them, telling a quiet story of their own. They drifted for what felt like hours, though neither of them kept track of time. At one point, Felicity plucked a floating blossom from the water and set it gently on Pippin's head. A crown for the River King, she whispered playfully. Pippin gave a soft chuckle, too relaxed to lift a paw to adjust it. I could get used to being a River King, he murmured, his voice thick with drowsiness. The gentle rocking of the leaf and the warmth of the sun made Pippin's eyelids feel heavy. Before he knew it, his breathing slowed, and he drifted into a peaceful nap forward, lulled by the sounds of the river and the soft rhythm of the water. Felicity smiled to herself as she floated beside him, letting the river carry them wherever it pleased. There was no need to rush. The afternoon could last forever, as far as they were concerned. And so they drifted slow and steady, like a dream that doesn't want to end. The river carried them through the jungle, under the dappled light, and into the quietest corners of the world. And as the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon, the two friends floated on, wrapped in the kind of peace that only comes when there's nowhere to be but right where you are. The sun was starting to lower itself into the horizon, painting the sky with soft streaks of orange, pink, and lavender. As the river continued its lazy journey through the jungle, the air grew cooler, and a soft hum of evening sounds filled the world. Pippin stirred on the wide leaf, giving a deep, rumbling sigh as he blinked his heavy eyes open. The golden crown of flowers Felicity had placed on his head slipped off into the water, where it bobbed gently for a moment before drifting away with the current. Is it still afternoon? Pippin mumbled, stretching his big paws lazily in front of him. Felicity, gliding alongside on the calm water, gave a soft chuckle. No, Pippin. It's almost evening now. We've been drifting all day. Pippin yawned, one of those long, slow bear yawns that makes you feel sleepy just hearing it. That explains why I'm still so tired. You could nap again if you like, Felicity whispered, paddling gently with one foot to keep the leaf on its smooth path down the river. There's no rush to go anywhere. Pippin gave a contented grunt. This is the best kind of day, the kind that just keeps going. His words trailed off, soft and slow, as he rested his head back down on the leaf. The river widened a little, carrying them past clusters of tall reeds that swayed in the evening breeze. Fireflies began to wake, their tiny lights blinking softly in the gathering twilight. They flickered like stars, first just a few, then more, until the whole river seemed to sparkle. Felicity gave her feathers a gentle shake, ruffling them to catch the cool breeze. I think the fireflies are throwing a little party just for, she whispered, her voice light and dreamy. Pippin opened one eye, watching the soft glow of the tiny lights. Another party? He murmured sleepily. Good thing I brought my costume. Felicity gave a quiet laugh. You're still wearing your fur, so I guess you're always dressed for any party. Pippin gave a low chuckle in return. Same goes for you, Felicity. The river curved gently, carrying them under a canopy of overhanging branches where lantern-like flowers glowed faintly in the dim light. Somewhere in the distance, a frog croaked a sleepy tune, and the faint sound of crickets rose, weaving itself into the gentle symphony of the night. For a while, the two friends floated in companionable silence, listening to the world as it prepared for sleep. Every sound was slow and soft, like a lullaby just for them. The sky above them deepened from lavender to deep indigo, and one by one the stars began to appear. Pippin watched as the first star twinkled into view, then the second and the third. Do you think the stars ever take naps? Pippin wondered aloud, his voice so soft it was almost a mumble. Felicity thought for a moment. Maybe, but only the tiniest naps, she said. They have to stay awake to guide anyone who needs a light in the dark. Pippin gave a quiet hum, as if that made perfect sense. Good stars, he whispered, always there when you need them. The river drifted slowly toward the sea, where the horizon met the night sky in a perfect line. But before they reached it, the water widened into a calm lagoon, cradled by smooth rocks and tall palms that swayed gently in the breeze. This looks like a good place to stop, Felicity said softly. We could stay here for the night, if you like. Pippin gave a sleepy nod. That sounds nice. I could sleep right here on this leaf forever. With a graceful nudge of her beak, Felicity guided the leaf toward the shore, where the water was shallow and still. The leaf settled against a soft patch of reeds, and Pippin let out a long, contented breath as he snuggled deeper into it. Felicity fluffed up her feathers and tucked her head under her wing, perching comfortably on a nearby rock. Good night, Pippin, she whispered, her voice barely more than a sigh. Pippin's eyes drifted closed, and the sounds of the night wrapped around him like the softest blanket, the hush of the waves, the whisper of the breeze, and the gentle flicker of fireflies blinking in the dark. Good night, Felicity, Pippin murmured, his words fading into a happy, sleepy hum. And so, under the glow of the stars and the twinkle of fireflies, the two friends drifted into the deepest, dreamiest sleep. The river kept flowing. The fireflies kept glowing, and the night stretched on, calm and peaceful, like a story that never really ends. The night deepened over the lagoon, wrapping everything in quiet stillness. The stars glimmered like tiny pinpricks in a soft, velvety sky. A crescent moon hung low, casting a faint silver glow over the water, where gentle ripples shimmered and flickered like faraway dreams. Pippin lay on his wide leaf, floating just a little, his paws tucked under him, and his breathing slow and even. He wasn't quite awake, but he wasn't fully asleep either, drifting somewhere between the two, in that perfect place where dreams begin to bloom. Felicity perched nearby, her head still tucked beneath her wing. Every now and then she gave the tiniest wiggle, shifting her balance without ever fully waking. Her feathers fluffed gently in the breeze, and she made soft, sleepy sounds, a low hum like a lullaby only she could hear. As they rested, the world around them seemed to hum with a quiet kind of magic. The moonlight touched the surface of the lagoon, turning the water into a glowing mirror. Tiny fish swam beneath, their scales glimmering faintly, like stars moving just beneath the surface. A pair of turtles drifted lazily by, their shells shining under the moon's light. They made no sound, only bobbing gently as they floated across the lagoon, as if even they didn't want to disturb the peaceful night. Pippin sighed in his sleep, rolling slightly on the leaf. His big, soft paw dipped into the cool water, causing a tiny ripple to spread outward, slow and calm. The ripple floated across the lagoon as gentle as a whisper. He dreamed of snowflakes, soft, drifting flakes that swirled around him, falling from a sky just as peaceful as this night. But instead of landing on ice or snow, the flakes fell on warm sand. And in his dream, Felicity stood beside him, dressed in her feathers and a bright flower crown. "We can build snow castles on the beach," Dream Felicity told him, her voice as light as a breeze. Dream Pippin smiled. "And we can take naps between snowstorms," he replied happily. As the real Pippin dreamed, the night deepened even further. The jungle around the lagoon rustled gently, and the fireflies blinked more slowly, as if they too were ready to drift off to sleep. Above, the moon slipped behind a thin veil of clouds, making the world feel even softer, even quieter. After a long while, though neither Pippin nor Felicity kept track of time, the moonlight began to shift ever so slightly. The stars continued their slow dance across the sky, twinkling faintly in the distance. And though the night still held the peace of a lullaby, the slightest hint of morning began to whisper at the edges of the horizon. Felicity stirred just a little and peeked one eye open. She watched the stars for a moment, then gave a small, sleepy sigh and tucked her head back under her wing. There was no need to wake up just yet. Pippin's leaf bobbed softly in the water, rocking him gently, as if the lagoon itself wanted to keep him dreaming for just a little while longer. And so the two friends stayed exactly where they were, wrapped in the quiet comfort of the night, drifting in the softest place between dreams and morning. When the sun eventually began to rise, it would do so slowly, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. But for now, the night was theirs, and the stars above whispered, "Sleep a little longer." Pippin gave one last contented sigh, curling his big paws closer to his chest. Felicity shifted slightly on her perch, her feathers ruffling quietly in the breeze, and together, in the glow of the moon and the flicker of fireflies, the two friends dreamed on, floating through the night, as peaceful as the water that carried them. The stars were beginning to yawn, blinking lazily as they prepared to fade into the morning sky. Somewhere far off, the very first bird began to chirp, a gentle, tentative sound, as if it wasn't quite ready to wake everyone just yet. The night still lingered in the air, cool and quiet, wrapped around the lagoon like a cozy blanket. Pippin shifted on his floating leaf, rolling from his side to his back, his big paws stretching just a little before settling again. The water rocked him gently, as if the river knew exactly how to keep a polar bear asleep. Felicity stirred from her perch, lifting her head slowly. The sky above her was still a deep shade of blue, but along the far edge of the horizon, a faint streak of pink had started to appear. She gave her feathers a slow, sleepy shake, fluffing them up before tucking them neatly again. Not quite morning yet," she whispered to herself, her voice soft as a breeze. She looked over at Pippin, who was still sound asleep, his breath rising and falling in a steady rhythm. Felicity smiled to herself. There was no need to wake him, not yet, Instead, she hopped down from her perch onto the leaf beside him. It dipped slightly under her weight, but not enough to wake the sleepy polar bear. Felicity folded her long legs beneath her, settling into a cozy spot next to Pippin. The two friends drifted like that for a while longer, side by side on the leaf, floating ever so slowly as the lagoon carried them in lazy circles. The breeze whispered through the tall palms, and tiny ripples brushed against the shore, as if everything in the world was waiting patiently for the sun to rise. As the sky brightened bit by bit, the first rays of sunlight stretched across the water, painting it with soft gold and pink. The flowers along the shore began to open, their petals unfurling as if they were waking up from dreams of their own. Pippin gave a little murmur in his sleep, rolling slightly onto his side, his paw brushing against Felicity's feathers. Felicity smiled and gave him a gentle nudge with her beak. "Not yet, Pippin," she whispered, her voice as light as the morning mist. "Sleep a little longer." And so Pippin did exactly that. His big fluffy body relaxed completely, his breath slow and steady, as if the whole world was waiting for him to wake up at just the right moment. The river carried them gently toward the far side of the lagoon, where the water was smooth as glass. The leaf rocked them in the softest, sleepiest way, as if saying, "There's no need to hurry." Even the birds seemed to take their time, their songs drifting lazily on the breeze, as though they, too, were still half dreaming. The sun rose slowly, spreading warmth across the lagoon, but it didn't rush. It climbed gently, inch by inch, casting long beams of light through the jungle trees. And just as the morning wrapped itself around them, Pippin gave a slow, satisfied sigh and blinked his eyes open. He stretched, long and slow, his paws reaching toward the edges of the leaf. Morning already?" he murmured, his voice thick with sleep. "Almost," Felicity whispered, resting her beak softly on his shoulder. "But there's no rush. The sun is taking its time today." Pippin gave a contented grunt, his eyes half closed as he lay back down. "Good. I like days that start slow." Felicity gave a gentle flap of her wings, just enough to stir the breeze around them. "Me too," she whispered. They floated quietly for a little while longer, the morning unfolding like a slow, peaceful dream. The water shimmered with soft light, and the jungle rustled quietly in the background as if the whole world was waking up in the gentlest way possible. And there on the leaf, two friends drifted in perfect peace, content to stay exactly where they were, wrapped in the warmth of the new day, with nothing to do but enjoy the gentle rhythm of life on the lagoon. The end.